It's December 14th, 2022. I'm in this thinking of how some of the television pieces have been shoestringed together. Um, and then I'm thinking of my ability to interpret and redefine in my own words how it's relevant for placement of space and time. With what's going on in unscheduled events, as far as I'm concerned. I have no idea how it works. Lewis brought me to a place called it's a Greek Orthodox church. They had a gathering in their space at the Archangel Michael, for which I attended in Port Washington. Just a real world experience. Mental illness totally aside, but that's what the gathering name was of the group. And it was NAMI. Without any names of attendees, I was there with Lewis. That was it. God's witness kind of a thing, or Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost, whatever. So I show up. Not a level of human agreement that I necessarily, whatever, but I'm not going into my personal feelings on it. I was there. I showed up. So typical, I enter a room. This particular group of people spoke about themselves, spoke about their experience. I've been in rooms where they've done that before. Not my first go at the rodeo. And so I'm sitting in the back, and by rodeo I mean, like, if you pronounce it differently and take the horses out of the rodeo, it's the rodeo, something along those lines. So I sat in the back of the room. I gave my full attention, along with Lewis, to whomever was presenting and speaking without slideshow, just a microphone or just a projected voice, and that was it. Surveyed how the social aspect of it worked. What didn't work, did not speak on it. There were groups. I mean, again, I could do my full analysis, but I'm not at the moment, of how they were working and what I witnessed. So, meeting adjourns, or meeting ends, because it's not formal. There's no gavel there. It's humans in their humanness in this level of New York. And I'm just there as the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit. And I have planetary more than just a birthday on the calendar. Not going into hands of time, not going into more than that. So, again, don't introduce myself as such. I'm just there, and I'm with Lewis, and here we are. So we're standing. Everybody is waiting for this raffle thing that they do. You have to buy tickets. It's a charity, and then you win baskets or something. So we're standing towards the front of the room. Again, we switch from the back of the room to the front of the room. And people are at their tables, they're mingling, they're speaking to one another. I don't know if they know one another or not. Again, my first experience with anybody there. And then from the corner of the room, there was music. And I was like, oh, Lewis. I was like, somebody's playing live piano. And he's like, oh. I mean, he was busy, like, there was chatter in the room. Of the people speaking. But all of a sudden, I like hone in. I'm like, oh my God, there's live music. So I observe from afar, and he is playing. This random person that was in the room just walked over to this piano that was catty cornered in the room up against the wall. But not like a grand piano type of a way, more of like an old Western style piano in the corner. And he is, as far as I'm concerned, because again, I don't get to go to live concerts, but I was so touched by his ability. I mean, his raw talent at playing the piano, something I have not acquired myself. I wish I had, but I have not. But at least I was there appreciating from afar his talent. Um, Again, I don't know piano etiquette when somebody is mid concert. It's not an official concert, so of course I'm there speaking to Lewis. All of a sudden, he finished the musical piece, and then he was looking for his next musical sheet or book of what he was going to play. And in that break, in the timing of his musical pieces, I there was nobody around him. I don't even think anybody seated knew that it was live piano because there was a big Christmas tree and he was kind of hidden behind. But where I was standing, I was watching in silent appreciation of his talent. So when I got that break, because I knew his back was to us, I just went over real quickly and I said, excuse me. I said, I don't know piano etiquette, but I just wanted to let you know that my father and I are listening to you. And I mean, you play so well. I said, greatly appreciated. I said, happy holidays. And I gave him like a quick clap. And then I could see he was uncomfortable about the attention. So I just excused myself and I went back to speaking with my father. But I didn't want to let the moment go without appreciation of how his taking the initiative of playing that live music in that moment really touched both my father and I. Since I don't get out much, I definitely don't have money to go to concerts or symphonies or whatever. And have somebody so talented play live music in front of us was such a rare event, being that I'm in these series of rooms where there's really not much outside stimulation or participation or even at that level of pleasurable experiences. It's a lot of grunt work, and it's not it's dregs most of the time, like dredging a river with never having anything whatever. I mean, it's whatever. So in that moment, I just wanted to let him know, but I could see he was uncomfortable, so I just withdrew quickly. I just wanted to get my point across so he knew that his talent was not going unappreciated. Um, so anyhow, so that was in that moment. I met some woman by the name of Ellen. I think I had spoke to her on the phone. My dad said she was a nurse. I had no idea what that was about. Um, but that happened. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about their stories in their social lives of this Archangel parish. Seems to have a lot of money. They've like almost reminiscent of like the royal cathedrals and like the Baroque or the Basque of Europe when money was plentiful and they could build these beautiful buildings and congregations together to center around. Somebody put a lot of effort, and it is just so. I mean, it was a modern marvel in the sense of its grandiose appearance, and it had the largest presepio in Italiano presepio in front of the church, the Greek Orthodox Church, as we went and drove in life size that could be seen from the fairway. I had never been to this part of Port Washington. It was during the dark, but at night it was lit up. And of course, visual architecture and design and the aesthetics and the property. I mean, like, I'm a big observer and appreciative of all of the intricate detail that the property management took to make this come alive and to keep these traditions alive, which I feel in this day and time in modern city is so crucially important. not to lose those traditions as generations pass and the coming of the next generation. So much has been lost, even in my own family. Um, so there's that. Um, then I'm watching, and on comes this planetary message of like NASA level intelligence, is what I would call it. I don't know that NASA's necessarily involved in putting, it's called the universe. It's was on this television channel called A Story, for which I was listening for intelligence within the program at one unit of intelligence, just to cross reference with whatever happened yesterday. Apparently, there's some warehouse in New York City that NYPD uses. Um, Again, I looked symbolically at the numbers. 700 made sense. Columbia made sense. Red Hook made sense. It went up in flames. It was an NYPD warehouse where they keep evidence. Again, it's a story of, I don't know who's involved, but I'm just witnessing all of this from afar in like remote viewers. Like CIA knows there's remote viewers, so like whatever on that. Um and then there's the integration between the two levels of intelligence. And then today, there was something that came out between Kathy Hochul and Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams, talking about some partnership through some lowercase symbol a, lowercase symbol b, lowercase n, lowercase y, just so the capital system doesn't get all crazy. But it was in Bray King News, which I know has semblance. When I looked it up, it said under the Spanish definition of Bray. Then there was a Scottish definition. Then I cross referenced the French definition. And then I realized that there's French intelligence referenced on the Google that the Maxi iPad internet put up in New York that I have access to. So again, I'm just cross referencing all of these for my New York portion of at Escalator Company. I am stuck with no money, no work and no chain of escalator, or who's running escalator at this point. I mean, I've got a son on board in Hands of Time, the way that we describe it in gestational. Um, and then I even went into like the definition of the difference of a symmetrical clock as opposed to an out of orbit or a radicalized clock in clockmaker. A symmetry clockmaker makes a big difference to a non-symmetrical clock, or somebody wanting to call themselves a clockmaker, which that's handled by special whatever, or if it's not, it should be. um but again, not even knowing like what house, what company, what, where does one go, who keeps whom safe, where does Alexander and I am a clockmaker. I made the Hands of Time. It has very specific, I know people know about it, I just don't know what people keep us safe as an intelligent design within an outer matrix of intelligent design that has a thread of cosmic reality and follows a specific narrative, in New York for specific purpose. Um, Especially with the business office being as dangerously, I don't know, out of tune. I mean, if I'm not being recognized and I don't have the right chain of command and I don't have names and I don't have a place to report in a very specific manner, and I'm not being fed and housed properly, and I don't have formal clockmaker, whatever garden person at Hummingbird and Flower in some butterfly net, which somebody uses somewhere at the great beyond. Um, I'm having trouble with a lot of things. One of them being how to even organize the thoughts properly and the specialized communication to reference very specific pieces that are not even in, like, I'm in that room and there's a person playing the piano, and I gravitate to that because it's something different. And it's like the human conversation about mental disease and how their vocabulary and almost trying to bring everybody into that mental diseased ring. I'm not there with you. I'm not. I'm something completely different. Do not ever try to put your label on me. You want to label yourselves as defective? Go right ahead, but keep me out of your defective conversation. I got real stuff to do before I leave this world. So, um, so there's that. So I'm going to go back and look at like NASA level of conversation. They have something about gas planets. Um, they talked about a very specific three. Now, is this like the end all be all? I don't have any way to verify that or vet that. I don't have the correct, I'm not even in the correct level of humanity that I need to be within for having produced a clock, a human clock, calcaneus calculus. It's it's an important feature, but for a very specific secular, and I don't even know who. Again, how to reach out. I dare not ever mention anything without a visual tool and reference behind me with the amount of mental defective in the field. Like trying to get social degrees, trying to impress one another with these mental disease, trying to like impress the drug companies with how many prescriptions they can write and how they can formally organize these big groups to be some kind of business cluster, and that they're all happy in their social networks. I mean, again, I'm not with them. I mean, I've gone to witness them. I see how they're using their social allowances in monetary. But the day that they try to put some kind of court paperwork on me and then try to lock me in the institution, they lost all my support completely. I am not all right with any of them. Not being in any like chair or directorship or executive position, that's for sure. I am not one of them. So I don't speak of planets because I don't want to have a conversation like you. So you think you're from another planet? Do me a favor, write down the symbols of whatever you want to address, because here it's Jupiter. And unless you know how to decipher out Jupiter being with the Su, SU, the F kids at F35, and the J kids from J10, I don't even want to have a ground conversation about what does Jupiter mean. At JU is the first two letters, and that in Italian means low or down. So there's that. So in the universe, it has alien planets, which is S2E1. So season 2, episode 1. It aired originally in November 2007, but I caught the episode rebroadcast on Tuesday, December 13th. And then there was another episode same day, Catastrophes That Changed the Planet, which is season 6, episode 1. And that original air date was October 2011. And that October starts with OCT, not ACHT. Because I know that sound makes a big difference in multiple languages, depending on whatever it is. So that's why I usually have a reference behind me of whatever the humans are saying, because I've got crazy, I mean, I have lots of words for them with SHIT, and BAGS, because I am really not happy with the New York community. But here we are.
Shaped almost every aspect of the solar system. But now, as we move forward in time, disasters even determine the order in which the planets line up.
So for my purpose, so the disasters now order how the planets line up. So now in space and time, in a quantitative analysis of like quantum realm and dimensions being taken into account in like, is this charming? Is this quark? Is this boson? Is this the God particle theory? That's really curious. Should I be cerned or concerned? Well, I'm listening to it, being that I've been bumped out of alignment. I had a planetary appearance. I was a birthing star system, a clockmaker, a future. I would bring future into this part of the universe and this part of the galaxy. This was known. These are knowns. But yet, someone, and they're saying it's part of the gas planet series, was trying to reorder and realign and bumped those that had planets. Now, they mentioned there's planets the size of Earth, which are hospitable. And then it mentions that there are planets that are not the size of Earth. They're not as hospitable as Earth. They're not in this like Goldilocks zone. Right, yeah, got that. But again, that gets back to zoning, and I already experienced a problem that threw me into some other category of degradate, for which I am now categorically in an even further problem. How do I change my planetary alignment when I have this special kid, but I have no humans of any level of intelligence for which I could reach to speak to about getting help and getting him and I back to a level that suits the function for which we were born in calcaneus calculus, and I know how to define it if you get me an astrophysicist, not a mental disease coordinator.
Today, traveling out from the sun, the order of the outer gas giants is Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. But once, things were very different.
So they're agreeing things were different. The order kept changing, and then it comes into an alignment.
Early in the history of the solar system, Jupiter and Saturn kind of wandered around at different distances from the sun. And that's because they were continually interacting with the leftover planetesimals in the solar system.
Oh, well, I could draw a real parallel between the royal planetesimals and what's going on here, being that there is a magi that was born of a special star. However we want to word it, it still exists, and it still has planetary coexistence and cohesive measure. It's uber important. And totally isolating and quarantining in an area and ignoring the two of us, like as if we don't exist, is an even bigger problem. There's one where it has to be something for security purposes so we don't get hurt and people don't look for us. I got it. But I also have to be integrated at some level for my own personal security and that of this coexistence that exists. I mean, there has to be some kind of integration and some kind of compensation at some point. The clock functions. The two of us function. And we're on someone's schedule, but yet they're actually technically on ours.
That affected their orbits.
As the orbits of Jupiter and Saturn fluctuated, they set off a cosmic chain reaction that tore the solar system apart.
A cosmic chain reaction that tore the solar system apart. Well, it's special marriages in normally prearrangement, predestined, and birthing star systems. The special children are known. There's a special arrangement. There's a special seed to flower relationship. I know that somebody came at some point, but then I don't know what happened. So is that somebody rearranging the solar system? I mean, I was going to birth the special child either way. They just swapped out the special I was built and treated with. I mean, there was business and treaty associated with this, is there not? I mean, they have to put some kind of self-worth and value on this. So now they've knocked out the order of things. This has cascading effects that goes like they can't even calculate how far into the generations and the landscaping and the design.
Number 8 in our countdown to the ultimate planetary catastrophe, the orbital maelstrom.
Maelstrom. Wow, there's a word I don't hear every day in my level of humanness, locked in a series of rooms for which there's been no entry ramp. So they've taken away the ability to have the person that I was built for, essentially, and that I was supposed to marry at Family Tree of special star children. They took that away. And then there was no entry ramp onto even a pathway of semblance to get back to a level where I can even get to generalizations and get to a place where I could even recoup for my own safety and for that of the special child. So now how are humans who were involved in knocking this out of order, how are they upholding anything?
500 million years after the planets formed, Jupiter elbowed inwards toward the Sun, while Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune drifted outwards.
Now this is according to this
Jupiter
one.
eventually orbited around the Sun exactly twice for every one time that Saturn did. This pivotal moment is known as the 2-to-1 resonance.
2-to-1 resonance is a very...
Now, is this the breakup of some estate because some revolution was going on, or is that just an excuse at this level? I don't know where to go. Are we talking generalization level? Are we talking common area? Are we talking planetary and council at Vatican level? I don't know where to go for help. I don't.
Strong gravitational interaction when taken over millions of years, and having Jupiter and Saturn in a 2-to-1 resonance leads to profound consequences throughout the solar system. It shakes the orbits of the other objects up, it leads to crossing orbits, and it can lead to giant impacts.
Out of the mouth of babes. Common area, common studies, but got into a planetary study, lucky him, wasn't even offered where I was. They took everything stars, planetary, and universe out in cosmology, astrology, mythology. All of that was removed from my being able to access it. Even the vocabulary of what I just stated wasn't even taught as a possibility within my life frame by humans. It was something I had to discover on some kind of alternate communication device by shoestring Like, maybe they'll figure it out, maybe they won't.
Saturn and Jupiter's resonant gravity destabilized the orbits of Uranus and Neptune. The resulting game...
Did he say destabilizing gravity? Yeah, I think I've been talking about that lately.
Game of planetary musical chairs ignited the...
Oh, did he use planetary musical chairs? Wow, another verse that I've used.
The largest and most long-lasting catastrophe ever to shake the solar system.
When Jupiter and Saturn reached that 2-1 resonance, it imparted a lot of gravitational energy that essentially stirred up the outer solar system. Neptune and Uranus were thrown into much higher orbits, and they even switched places.
This looks like the great beyond. I mean, if I'm an Earth, and I'm an Earthling with ear things, they are planets that are in the great beyond my ability to see and categorically even chase as a possibility of reining back in order to balance back out.
So now the order is Uranus, Neptune. In the beginning, it used to be Neptune followed by Uranus.
Neptune and Uranus may have switched orbits, not once, but several times. But they were the lucky ones. Several planets were most likely hurled out of the solar system altogether, doomed to wander forever in the blackness of interstellar space.
It's almost a certainty that our solar system has lost planets along the way during this sort of celestial billiards that's played and planets.
They even say during celestial billiards that planets have surely been lost along the way. So now that opens the question of, well, who is searching for these planets and how quickly to rectify them, especially if it's birthing in a birthing star format of a very special area that was broken in cosmic nursery.
Swapping places. There's even some evidence, perhaps, that Jupiter and Saturn may have wandered into the inner solar system to near the position where the Earth is today before wandering back out to their present locations.
But the 2-to-1 resonance was just the beginning, as the gas giants searched for stable orbits.
Did it say gas giants? Just want to make sure. Because Lynn and Lou made a point today. We went for gas. And it was one of the corporations. It was under some color system. And I know myself, I have no clue who's involved with what. When it's filling up the tank of the car, there's no intelligent life on this part of the earth that has spoken to me about what's a safe gasoline company to search for, map out those, and only buy gasoline from those particular companies. There's not that kind of brand loyalty around here. There's also not that level of cooperation amongst the humans and our persons while in the field.
4.1 billion years ago, they ignited the most wide-ranging cataclysm ever to engulf the solar system. So far, anyway. Number 7 in our countdown. The Late Heavy Bombardment. The orbital dance of Saturn and Jupiter didn't just throw the outer gas giants into turmoil. It also ignited a system-wide maelstrom.
The wandering around of Jupiter and Saturn would have created gravitational tugs on the protoplanets that were forming in the region of the asteroid belt. That would have caused them to smash together, shattering them into a bunch of asteroids, probably before 4.1 billion years ago.
He mentioned proto. In this area, there's a level of intelligence I follow being DB. Then there was, I believe, what came next was PRO, CBDA. Then it went WCN, BEST, and then SOS.
And then the 2-to-1 resonance of Jupiter and Saturn channeled some of those asteroids into the inner solar system, creating the era of heavy bombardment.
We can see the dramatic results every time we gaze up at the moon. Most of the scars on its pock-marked face are the result of this bombardment. Also known as the lunar cataclysm. Proof of this disaster was discovered in 1969 when NASA's Apollo 11 mission put the first man on the moon.
It's a really fun detective story connecting the dynamical models that are giving us an explanation for the geologic evidence that we see for a late heavy bombardment about 4 billion years ago here in the inner solar system. We had the geologic evidence ever since Apollo in the dating of the rocks from the moon that showed this period of dates at that time.
What I don't understand is why was the door of opportunity shut and I wasn't even able to get into a level of learning at that level of storytelling and that level of intelligence while amongst humanity? Why was I somehow routed into this really horrific storyline and script and trapped without even a way to care for myself or the special child that I was birthing? Now that was catastrophes. They even have it as a CAT in the beginning, and it says cat as trophies. That's how the word catastrophes spells out. Cat as trophies. So tropes that change the planet. And then it goes into alien planets, which is S2E1.
As technology improves, we're going to be able to find planets that look much more like the Earth. Planets that perhaps have life on them, and maybe even planets that have forests and steam trains.
So technology is improved because that's one of those things, the statements, if then, the humans at the business office use. So technology in this area during this revolution has improved in this revolting, because that's what it feels like. And it's just trapped me even further, even though they know and they center their lives around some of these stories for which my cosmic fabric and thread of reality is woven into. It just shreds their alibi as why did they stand around and let it happen this way?
The astronomers who have dedicated their lives to this quest all believe it's only a matter of time before we find the first truly Earth-like planet.
The most exciting thing I can tell you is that we are now routinely commonly discovering planets that are a mere 5 or 10 times the mass of our Earth. We're not quite to the point where we're finding Earths, and that's where we really want to be. But we're finding planets that are ever so close to our home planet.
So when we actually do cross that final threshold and do find evidence that there's a habitable planet out there, this is going to be quite an epical event for humanity.
People should not worry too much yet that we haven't found any Earth-like planets.
They're looking for evidence. Oh, speaking of evidence, hold on. Let's see what happened in New York in real time. Something about Red Hook and some burning evidence locker in Manhattan or Brooklyn on the same island I'm on. And I don't have any idea what's going on in that neck of the wood. But here we are. Now, this was breaking news yesterday. When it first came out, I didn't think much of it until I started analyzing the planetary thing and started thinking of where is that relevant in time and space with the real, actual entanglements, quantum entanglements with an appearance in front of humans in a large setting, for which I've had many, just they've never fruited with any real relationship that I needed. And then there's this, and then it goes into this morning, and it's still burning, this fire.
Well, we are continuing to follow breaking news in Brooklyn. Coming up next, we're going to have an update from Red Hook, where an NYPD warehouse is right now up in flames. This is a live look from Newscopter 7. We're going to have a live report from the scene coming up next.
Now here's Eyewitness News at 4 yesterday.
It's happening in Brooklyn, a warehouse fire that ignited right about 10 a.m.
Now, it says here,
it is still burning.
Yeah, and it is expected to stay that way for several more days. We know 8 people were injured in the fire, and now police have given more details about what was inside that warehouse, that it's making so hard to fight the flames.
Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett in Red Hook with the breaking details. NJ.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. You name it, and it was probably burning inside this warehouse. As you said a moment ago, the fire is still burning more than 5 hours after it started. How did it start? Still not clear, and no specific cause has been ruled out. But yes, firefighters say it could continue burning for days. Plumes of thick black smoke billowed into the sky as scores of firefighters poured water on the warehouse from every direction. At one point, an explosion triggered a partial collapse of the building, and units were forced to back out. FDNY Chief of Department John Hodgins.
We arrived quickly to a large volume of fire on arrival. We attempted an interior fire attack, but the members were overwhelmed by the amount of fire, and we had to back all of our firefighters out of the building and go to an exterior attack.
Several firefighters and EMS medics were injured, along with 2 civilians, but none seriously. The 8,000 square foot warehouse along the Brooklyn waterfront is one of 5 used by the NYPD to store evidence. Much of it, vehicles seized from the street or recovered from crime scenes. Among them, e-bikes, scooters, and ATVs. But the building also contained cold case evidence from unsolved crimes.
DNA, things from past crimes, burglaries, maybe shooting incidents. We have some biological evidence here as well.
Authorities emphasize that rape kit evidence is stored elsewhere and was not lost in the fire. It was first reported at 10:37 this morning by contractors working in the building. There were 15 NYPD employees on the property at the time. All escaped the fire.
It's a very serious, this is an ABC News.
All right, we're going to go ahead to that special report.
Now this morning, which is Wednesday, December 14th, CBS Mornings had which is for episode E248, and they report that it's still burning. So here's the update.
Good morning. It is 7:56 on this Wednesday, December 14th. Another cold day ahead with highs hovering around 40. I'm Cindy Shu. Elise Finch will have your first alert forecast coming up. A massive fire at an NYPD evidence warehouse in Red Hook is still burning this morning, more than 20 hours after it started. The facility is used to store DNA evidence and vehicles tied to some major cases. At least 8 people have been injured in the fire, including 6 first responders. The New York City Council is meeting today to make sure NYCHA development.
Now, Eyewitness News at noon for today, being Wednesday, December 14th, has Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams talking about this partnership.
Noon, Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams today stressed their common ground on critical issues
on the
while
future.
presenting an action plan to revive New York City in the post-pandemic world. Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller has the story.
This is a 1930 moment.
I have not met with either one of them as of 2022. While all of this is being enacted and put forth, I have no idea how that actually works within coexistence at Planetary, while Alexander and I are here, and I don't have Here's my day so far. They needed to go for the Christmas tree. They wanted me to go. So I go in case they need an extra set of hands. Then Linda needs to go food shopping. Now, she's completely independent, but she would like me to go food shopping with her because she's been having trouble. And again, just that safety net to go in case she needs a second set of hands. So I'm always... where does she need me? I feel foolish just standing and following her, but that's what she asked for, and I don't want to take her independence away from her. Unneededly so. And it is one of the only forms of exercise that she gets these days, so also I don't want to take that from her either. So I follow her around. Now, did I really need to be there or go there, or could I be better used somewhere else in Planetary? I mean, an aide would have worked just as well as what I did for her. But again, in this whatever's going on series of rooms I'm in, where I can't seem to find compensation or a place to participate in a useful, helpful manner for which I was built into the system and born for before planets collided and gas partnerships and huge rearrangement went on that led to here.
In the midst of the Great Depression.
This is not a moment to despair. It's a moment of great opportunity.
Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams shared the stage this morning at the annual association.
Difference between the business office trying to make sure there's a future in New York City and whatever on that, to their business partnerships that they've aligned themselves with and set up, while I'm having out of alignment issues which still need to go addressed, because it seems like I don't know how the rewards program works on this coexistence with humans, with Alexander and I being totally out of the equation without having our fair whatever while all of this is going on.
For a Better New York Breakfast, or ABNY, unveiling what they're calling the new New York. The findings from a panel of labor, business, and political leaders about drastic changes needed in a post-COVID world. This rendering shows more of Midtown going car-free, but many of the offices above remain empty, with people working remotely, even as housing costs remain sky-high.
We created jobs, though, at 3 times the rate as we created housing to put the people in who will work in those jobs. So that's the disconnect. They want to be here. They want to raise their kids here in the most exciting place on the earth. But if you can't find a house, you can't get the childcare, it just doesn't work.
And while higher food and housing costs are squeezing average New Yorkers, Mayor Adams had this to say about the city's wealthiest residents.
And here's my response. Tis you? I don't even know you.
And it's about stop dividing our city to continually attack high-income earners, where 51% of our taxes are paid by 2% of New Yorkers. It's blown my mind when I hear people say, so what if they leave? No, you leave.
And on crime, he had a direct message for the governor.
And you're right, Governor. The prerequisite to our prosperity is public safety and justice. They go together. We must be safe as a city. And you can't be safe as a city if you continue to allow people who are violent in our city to return to our streets and inflict violence on innocent people. It can't happen.
Adams calling on Hochul to make additional changes to the bail reform law she already amended once. Now, despite that one disagreement, the mayor and governor called themselves partners, which is certainly a change. In the newsroom, Derek Waller, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
As the Fed continues.
So again, I don't want to hear the words mental illness out of a single human for the rest of my life, nor do I want papers drawn up to hurt me under such show business words when I have a very different set of circumstances than 99.9% of the humans that exist It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.